Today is January the 30th, 2019. Welcome to the Personal Computer Show. I'm Hank Key and my colleague is Joe King. Do you know who has your personal data? Do you know how Facebook, Google, and Amazon are using your personal data? You should find out. Our website is pcradioshow.org. We can be heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm streaming on the internet, as well as on various podcast hosting sites. Podcasts of the program is readily available on prn.fm on the internet and pcradioshow.org. To listen to the live program on the telephone each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the phone number is 641-793-7091. For those who are listening to the program on demand, you can leave us a message with your question or comments to hank@pcradioshow.org. You can also reach us on the Google number 862-800-6805. That's 862-800-6805, and start your message with the Personal Computer Show followed by your message. A big-time flaw in Apple's FaceTime software allows for users to eavesdrop on others while a call is still ringing. The bug works by simply dialing another user, then swiping up and inserting the originating number via the Add Person screen before it is answered. FaceTime apparently is thus tricked into believing that a group FaceTime conference call is occurring, transmitting audio from the recipient's device whether or not they have accepted or rejected the call. This very serious security issue is compounded by another. If the recipient hits the power or volume button to ignore the call, their device will start sending out audio as well as video from its front-facing camera, again without any visual notification. The issue is even more serious with Mac computers. By default, the Mac rings for longer than a phone, so it can act as a bug for an even longer duration. Apple is aware of this issue and they have identified a fix that will be released in a few days to fix the problem. However, seeing as it appears as though any FaceTime user with a device that supports group FaceTime, that's iOS 12.1, and with Mac OS Mojave 10.14.1 or later, could potentially be streaming audio or video to anyone without their knowledge, and the steps required to do this are both trivial and currently making the rounds on the internet. Everyone should absolutely disable FaceTime until Apple gets around to fixing this. On an iOS device, simply navigate to the Settings application and switch the toggle on the FaceTime icon to gray. On a Mac, open the FaceTime app, then click FaceTime in the menu bar and select Turn Off FaceTime. Microsoft has announced what will be in Windows 10 April 2019 update. There are a number of features which should be noted. Windows 10 next update is the April 2019 version 1903 and was codenamed 19H1 during development. 7 gigabytes of your PC storage will be reserved for updates if it's available. We had commented on this. If you happen to have a low-end system, it cannot make this storage reserve. And why are they doing it? Windows Update can fail to install properly if your PC doesn't have enough free disk storage. This can be a problem on inexpensive devices with only a small amount of built-in storage. Microsoft is solving the problem by commandeering 7 gigabytes of your PC storage and making it into reserve storage. This space is used for Windows updates, but programs can also store temporary files here. When Windows needs the space for updates, it deletes the temporary files and performs the update, so space isn't completely wasted, as files that would have normally used space on your computer would just sit in the reserved storage space. The exact amount of storage space used depends on the optional features and languages you have installed, but it starts at about 7 gigabytes. We had noted that there are many low-end PC systems that are being sold with only 32 gigabyte of storage. You should consider systems with at least 100 or more gigabytes of storage. Another major update to Windows 10 April 2019 update is that home users can now pause updates for up to 7 days. Currently, if you have Windows 10 Home installed and there is an update available, it will commandeer your system and do it without your ability to pause the update operation. Windows 10 professional users can still pause updates for up to 35 days at a time. A most interesting feature that will be included in the Windows 10 1903 update is the Windows Sandbox for professional users. Windows 10 now has a built-in Windows Sandbox, and it's everything we've always wanted. An integrated, isolated desktop environment where you can run software in a container without affecting your host operating system. When you close the sandbox, all the software and files in the sandbox are deleted. It uses hardware-based virtualization to keep the software confined to a container, just like Microsoft's Hyper-V. The sandbox is only available on professional, enterprise, and education editions of Windows. So if you happen to be a Windows 10 Home user, you'll have to pay for the upgrade from Home to Pro to install and use the sandbox. Verizon's call blocking service called Call Filter Service previously required $3 a month for its use. Verizon said it would make spam and robocall blocking features free for all wireless customers starting in March, about 2 years after AT&T and T-Mobile began offering free robocall blocking. In March, Verizon will be rolling out their free spam alert and call blocking tools to all of their wireless customers whose smartphones support these features, including iPhone and Android devices. Verizon said that there will be more information on how to sign up for the free service as they get closer to launch. Verizon added call and spam screening features more than a year ago to its $3 a month call filter product, which also lets customers see contact details for unknown callers. Verizon pointed to research showing that its system correctly identified potential problem phone numbers approximately 93.6% of the time. That's very good. The service identifies spam callers and unknown numbers by name and shows an innovative risk meter that displays the level of spam risk associated with a call. If a call meets Verizon's spam criteria, the incoming call screen will display a spam label. Verizon said it is continuously updating their algorithm and has identified nearly 300 million numbers associated with spam and robocalling. The free service will be displayed in an app. Users will be able to choose their desired level of filtering, since some people have legitimate reasons for receiving robocalls, like prescription notifications, school closures, and so on. AT&T began offering free robocall blocking in December 2016, and T-Mobile announced free robocall blocking in March of 2017. Sprint service costs $3 a month, and consumers can also buy third-party tools such as Nomo Robo and RoboKiller. AT&T also offers a $4 per month premium service, but the free version includes spam warnings and automatic fraud blocking. T-Mobile launched another free blocking service called Caller Verified, though it initially is only available for the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. Caller Verified will be available on more smartphones later this year. T-Mobile said the Caller Verified service is the first in the industry to use the new Stir and Shaken standards. Stir and Shaken standards will work best when it's adopted by all phone providers. Besides T-Mobile, phone providers including Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and Cox have committed to implementing Stir and Shaken. The free Verizon service coming in March won't include Stir and Shaken at launch. Verizon said Stir and Shaken is something being added on the network side of things, and they anticipate it to be up and running this year. Free blocking of robocalls on cell phones is nice, and it's most certainly welcome. But what are telecom companies doing for landline customers? Although Tim Cook has not acknowledged it, the consensus of most news reporting is iPhone sales are down. The 2018 iPhones have been doing terribly in the market. One consumer research based on data from a rather small sample of U.S. customers reports the iPhone XR is actually the most popular model sold last quarter, outselling even the combined might of the iPhone XS and the iPhone XS Max. The expected sales of iPhones in China and India have not materialized. Apple has attributed this to geopolitics. Some of the journalists have written that the consumers may not have seen enough differences in features of the 2018 models compared to the iPhone X to spark any interest, and the larger screens of the iPhone XS Max. It's all of those factors, and most importantly, the higher price. The history of consumer electronics has been increasing features and lowering of prices as electronic products move from one generation to the next. The marketing principle used by Apple, however, is as you increase features, you also increase the price of the product. It can work if the product selling price increase was aligned with the increase in income. The iPhone X smartphone costs $357 to make, and it sells for about $1,000, giving it a gross margin of 64%. According to Tech Insights, a firm that tears down technology devices and analyzes the parts inside, the iPhone 8 sells for about $700 and has a gross margin of 59% back in 2017. Tech Insights estimated that Apple's cost to make the 256-gigabyte iPhone XS Max, which sells for $1,250, was just $443, including the price of all phone's components as well as test and assembly costs, which is about $50 more than last year's entry's iPhone X 64 gigabytes. As you stretch your profit margin, there's a point where the consumer is happy to just keep the existing product for a longer period of time. Based on data from a rather small sample of U.S. customers, the iPhone XR is actually the most popular model sold last quarter, outselling even the combined might of the iPhone XS and the iPhone XS Max. It may not really come as a surprise if you think about it. The iPhone XR does almost have all the features and designs of the more expensive models, and the features it does lack are probably worth the sacrifice for the lower price tag. Plus, the variety of color options and the official Apple Clear case, which will be available later in the year, help broaden the sale of the iPhone XR's appeal. According to the same Consumer Intelligence Research Partners, that's a CIRP report, the iPhone XS was the worst selling of the three, while the iPhone XR made up 39% of the sales. The iPhone XS and XS Max combined only made up 26%, with the larger model taking up the lion's share. Consumers may not have seen enough differences from the iPhone X to spark interest, and the larger screens of the iPhone XS Max and the iPhone XR won the battle. As Apple stretches out their profit margin, there's a point when the consumer has not had to stretch in real dollars in terms of income. A public consumer may agree with you that you may have the best device, but they also have to have real dollars to pay for the item. And of course, Apple has decided to reintroduce for sale the iPhone 6S. Microsoft cripples Windows Media Player on Windows 7. Windows 7 is still a great operating system. Microsoft cannot support the operating system forever, so it will stop doing so in less than a year. 1 in 4 of installed Windows systems in active use today is Windows 7. The right thing to do at this point is to allow Windows 7 to function as it has until support runs out. Why add stress to the lives of existing Windows 7 users? Sadly, Microsoft has a different idea. You see, the company has decided to purposely cripple both Windows Media Player and Windows Media Center on Windows 7 and Windows Media Center on 8.x. Microsoft will stop supplying metadata for media through these much-used programs. As you can guess, Windows Media Player on Windows 10 will continue to offer this capability. Going forward, you may be able to view information, that's the metadata, such as the title, genre, and artist for songs, and the director, actors, cover art, and TV guide for movies in the Windows Media Center and Windows Media Player. After looking at customer feedback and usage data, Microsoft decided to discontinue this service. This means that new metadata won't be updated on Media Player that are installed on your Windows device. However, any information that's already been downloaded will still be available. Windows Media Player on Windows 10 will remain unaffected. In other words, if you are on Windows 7 and you rely on the metadata supplied to Windows Media Player, an upgrade to the latest version of Windows 10 will solve your problem. Sadly, this seems to be nothing more than a dirty tactic to increase Windows 10 upgrades. There's no good reason why Microsoft can't continue offering this metadata until Windows 7 support officially ends. The cost of doing so won't affect the company's bottom line or their stock price. Crippling Windows Media Player on Windows 7 is a classless marketing act. Benjamin, Microsoft will soon be offering a virtualization sandbox under Windows 10. For many listeners, they might not know what it is, so perhaps you can give us a little more information on what is virtualization.
Technology in the workplace. Oh, wow. It's all over the place. This is Benjamin Rockwell, and now I'm going to take some time to put on my work hat, and I'm going to talk to you about those things you hear at the office, but you want to know a little bit more. Today, it's all going to be about the world of the IT professional and how we work with something called virtualization. All right, your computer, your desktop computer, whatever you've got at your desktop at the office, it exists as a single combined unit of hardware. All right, it's usually running Windows, some version of Windows. Maybe it's running Mac OS, or in rare, very rare situations, you're running Linux. That one combined unit of hardware is usually made up of a few different elements of things like the brain, which we call the CPU, the short-term storage, which we call RAM, and the long-term storage, which is the hard drive. All right, we've got all of that right there. When you're using Microsoft Word or Excel or Keynote or Numbers or the Internet or whatever software it is that you're using, it is rare that your system, your computer system right there, is using all of the CPU and all of the RAM and all of the hard drive speed. Each of these usually can be measured in the amount of capacity of availability. So think of this capacity. If you're running Word, your computer has plenty of capacity to do other things, and it actually does. So if you're running Microsoft Word on a Microsoft Windows system, it is usually running, yes, Windows. You're running Word. You probably have a few other applications open. It's running antivirus. It's keeping the internet connections alive. It's checking the time for scheduled actions. It's translating your key presses and mouse actions into the appropriate responses and more. Still, you may be operating at 10 to 15% of available capacity, maybe more, maybe less. Your RAM is working as well, as it holds the different programs in place. Word, your antivirus, Windows, and so forth. The hard drive, probably not even working all that much, as it only works when you load programs, you read data, or you save data. Imagine now, what if we could leverage all of that unused capacity and load other programs on at the same time to do many more things? Okay, I'll go a step further. Imagine being able to set up a single computer that handles everything for 20 people to run Microsoft Word at the same time, and all you have to do is connect to that one computer. Your local computer would no longer have to work as hard, and it may become even closer to what we call a dumb terminal, a system that does very little local thinking, But that single computer, a server, does the brain work for 20 people running Microsoft Word. That's virtualization. Today, IT professionals are exploring many different routes. Now, you may hear terms like VDI, virtual desktop interfaces, or you may hear terminal services. Another one is Citrix, and this is actually a professional brand name. Each of these is a method of delivering your computing needs to you while spending a little bit less on the local computer. It even allows an IT professional to replace a failed computer in a matter of minutes and hours rather than days, because all of your information is not stored locally, but on that server, on that virtual desktop interface. Now, some of the other amazing things that can be done include storing multiple servers on the same piece of hardware. A few years back, I worked for a company. I was in charge of 3 physical server hosts. Now, that's just physical servers. And they each held over 20 virtual server clients. So you've got the host, which is just the hardware, and the client, which is the software. Each of these virtual server clients held a terminal server, which provided about 20 systems with remote access to our main computer program. Now, I'm simplifying this up a lot. Before virtualization, this would have been $5,000 for each individual server, plus another $1,000 for each of those individual clients. And that, of course, really starts to rack up right away. Instead, through the sharing of unused capacity of the many software packages, we managed to handle this for about $30,000. Now, if you start doing up all of the math, that's kind of where it broke even. But we did so much more on top of that because there were other servers going and there were other different things that were going at the same time, all processing data, all handling everything that we needed for the entire company. We would have had to have had 20 physical servers plus 1,000, yes, for each of those individual clients. So it's a lot of money that we were saving. Moving more behind the scenes, because of redundancy that was built into this platform, I could have any of the hardware servers completely fail, and all of the software would start on a different machine within minutes and be ready for operation. Virtualization is something that will be with us for a long time. You may hear of VMware or Hyper-V, but it's really the same thing. It's where the thinking, that computing power, all of this magic just takes place on these remote servers where we manage to save money, we manage to provide all of the different services we need to deliver your technology to you, and not on your desktop. It's such an amazing world. It's an exciting world. And I want you to feel free to ask questions, of course. It'll contact us, and we will get back with you with new answers, new different topics. This is Benjamin Rockwell. Back to you, Hank.
Thank you, Benjamin. You cannot trust every download from the free software download sites or from an unknown developer. The reason for this is simple. The software you download may be unstable, bundled with adware, or might even be infected with a virus or malware. To deal with this, you can sandbox the application and give it a try. If it is good enough, you can install it normally. A sandbox is a virtual environment where you can install and run new or untrusted apps without letting them harm your system. The following are quick tech tips. Who is on your network without your knowledge? Beware of improper house wiring and how to bypass Windows password startup. A suggested tech tip from listener RS. How to see who's on your Wi-Fi without your knowledge. If your internet is sluggish, it may be that someone is piggybacking on your Wi-Fi. You should make sure that each device connected to your network is trustworthy. How do you see who's on your Wi-Fi? Discover how you can see who's on your network. If you suspect someone is connected to your Wi-Fi, There are 2 apps that can help you identify devices using your connection. You don't want other people on your network. If someone has access to your network, they have access to all the computers on that network, and that's dangerous. They could access files you unknowingly share. They could infect you with malware, and in certain situations, they could even steal your passwords and other personal information. Many have installed peripheral devices with Wi-Fi capability, such as home assistants, digital cameras, printers, televisions, telephones, and many other consumer electronic devices. If these devices are not properly secured, you may not realize that one of the hidden means of writing on your network is to go through these devices. As a result, you should take care to make sure that each device connected to your network is one that you can trust. To see who's on your network, what tools are available. Listener RS suggested Windows user can download a free portable program called Wireless Network Watcher, and Mac users can download a free, slightly more complex program called Who is on My Wi-Fi from the Mac App Store. Both tools will provide a list of every device currently connected to your network, so you can identify the ones that belong to you. Who is on My Wi-Fi is also available for Windows users. Just do a search with the following: download Wireless Network Watcher, or do a search on download Who is on My Wi-Fi. That's one word, by the way, Wi-Fi, W-I-F-I, for the Windows version. I did a first look review of Wireless Network Watcher. To use Wireless Network Watcher, just launch the program and it will immediately begin scanning your network. This will run a minute or two, and you'll know it's working if the bottom left corner reads Scanning. Once it's done, that message will disappear and you'll be presented with a full list of connected devices. The resulting list may look a little cryptic, especially if you aren't super tech savvy, but don't worry. You can ignore the IP addresses and MAC address listings for now. If you're using Wireless Network Watcher, just focus on the device name and the network adopter company columns. You can double-click on a device to add user text that helps you identify each device, which will help you narrow down all the items in this list. Who is on My Wi-Fi runs on Apple iOS. At present, I don't have access to a Mac, but I invite feedback from Mac users taking a look at Who is on My Wi-Fi. If you're lucky, you'll be able to recognize all the items on that list, but there may be a few that don't have enough information. You may be able to get a little more information from your router's web interface. If you see any other unlabeled devices on the list, check around your house for any internet-connected gadgets you might have missed, such as Amazon Echo or the Google Home Assistant. You may be able to match its MAC address to one of the unlabeled items in Wireless Network Watcher. If all goes well, you should be able to identify every device on your network. If there are any left over and you've combed your house looking for other internet-connected devices and found nothing, there's a chance that someone nearby may be using your Wi-Fi. If you discover that someone is stealing your Wi-Fi, you can kick them off with a change in router security. If WPS is turned on, you should turn it off, since this feature makes it easier for people to crack your Wi-Fi password. If you want to let guests on your Wi-Fi without giving them access to your device's information, you can always enable your router's guest network. If you already had a password, maybe it was weak and easy for your neighbor to guess. Changing it to something new should be sufficient to kick them off. Or, of course, you also have to re-authenticate all your devices, but you should be able to rest a little easier knowing that all the devices on the network belongs to you.
This is about your safety. I've identified a dangerous condition that will escape most people, but that's easy to spot if you know how. What I saw, many houses with all 20-amp circuit breakers installed into residential breaker boxes, also called load centers, but the Romex wiring coming out of the top, all with white jackets. 20-amp breakers, white Romex. Here's what's wrong with that. White jacket Romex is only rated for 15-amp service. The wires inside are smaller. The Romex that's qualified to handle 20 amps comes in a bright yellow jacket. The wires inside are bigger. When a short or an overload happens that should trip the breaker, a 20-amp breaker takes longer to trip than a 15-amp breaker, and the smaller wires in white jacket 15-amp Romex can heat up, potentially igniting a house fire. Also, the circuit breaker won't trip even after a long time if the overload on the wire is anything less than 20 amps. A 19-amp load on 15-amp white Romex also heats it up, and can keep heating it up for as long as the load exists. Again, it's dangerous. If it's all white Romex coming into the top of the breaker box, make sure it's all 15-amp breakers in the box. All white Romex and all 20-amp breakers add up to trouble. And if you feel like not looking for that, you have two other choices. One is to call in an electrician to check everything out for compliance with the current building codes. The other is to double-check your fire insurance and stay out of town for a while. On a 20-amp breaker, yellow is mellow, but white is a fright. Don't let some earlier electrician's shortcuts cost you a house.
Recently, I got a call from the daughter of a close friend who passed away. Her mother had a personal computer. They didn't have the password to open the Windows operating system installed on the unit. There are two ways of extracting what information may have been stored on the hard disk or solid-state drive. There is the brute force method. I would say this procedure should be considered only as a last resort option. To do this, you first remove the hard disk drive and install it into an external storage unit with a USB interface. The cost of this little box is $10 at Micro Center. Using this as external storage, connect this to another system to review and retrieve what data you need. With this method, you would still not have the ability to run the original system, as you do not have the Windows password to open the computer. I've been recommending the other method in using a software utility. I've been recommending the Trinity Rescue Kit. Trinity Rescue Kit is a bootable Linux distribution aimed specifically at offline operations for Windows and Linux systems, such as rescue, repair, password resets, and cloning. It has custom tools to easily recover deleted files, clone Windows installations over the network, perform antivirus sweeps with 2 different antivirus products, reset Windows passwords, read and write on NTFS partitions, edit partition layout, and much, much more. Trinity Rescue Kit is available on the internet for free. Trinity Rescue Kit, or TRK as it's normally known, is a free live Linux distribution that aims specifically at recovery and repair operations on Windows machines, but is equally usable for Linux recovery issues. Since a version 3.4, it has scrollable text menu that allows anyone who masters a keyboard and some English to perform maintenance and repair on a computer, ranging from password resetting over disk cleanup to virus scanning. To get a copy of Trinity Rescue Kit, do a search in the URL address using the following: download space Trinity space rescue space kit. Download Trinity Rescue Kit to access and download the utility. Similarly, I also did a search using download space rufus.exe, and that's rufus.exe. I'll repeat that again, download rufus.exe, which I used to create a bootable Trinity Rescue Kit onto a USB flash drive. Trinity Rescue Kit is a Linux program on a customized Linux distro operating system running off a USB flash drive. Trinity Rescue Kit is a command line driven utility. Although I primarily use this to bypass the Windows password, Trinity Rescue Kit has many other system rescue functions. There is the manual you can download, and there are over 90 pages in the manual. The product is stable. What are the hardware requirements for TRK? A low-end Pentium system that can do an external boot from a USB flash drive and a minimum of 64 megabytes of RAM. But this is the absolute minimum. Recommended is 128 megabytes and to run from memory 192 megabytes. For who is TRK intended for? Anyone who has a logic mind and a pretty decent computer knowledge. The more you know about Linux and Windows, the more you will get out of it. If all of this seems slightly overwhelming, find a computer buddy to give you an assist. The era of easy recycling may be coming to an end. As technology moves from one generation to the next generation of products, we are faced with how to dispose of the old. We include in this the disposal of dispensing of expended toner and ink cartridges. The disposal of toner and ink cartridges are readily accepted in most electronic stores, as well as selected department stores. They have made available oversized trash bins with an opening for you to deposit the items to be rejected. However, you can barely get the toner cartridge into them, but it's doable. Used ink cartridges do slip through easily. Now we have rather large batteries to contend with to recycle. For those who have FiOS service, you know what I'm talking about. You're probably familiar with the battery that looks like a mini car battery that needs replacement every 2 years. I find most people just leave the battery on top of the recycle bin. If you have replaced your old cathode ray television set with the latest flat panel unit, how would you recycle the television unit? You can't even give it away, as we have switched over from analog to digital signal transmission. For the large items, you can call the Department of Sanitation to pick up the material to be recycled. What about the little items? Originally, we were asked to separate them into individual recycle bags. Cans go into one bag, plastic, water, and milk containers to be placed into another recycle bag, glass bottles and jars into another recycle bag, newspapers are to be bundled separately, and metal computer parts put into another recycle bag. For those of us who spent most of our lives painstakingly separating plastic, glass, paper, and metal, you can see that the public was not enthused to be participant in recycling the trash. Multi-stream refers to a system where participants have to sort multiple kinds of recycling materials at home before the collection. Dual-stream systems require separation of paper, fiber, material, and containers. Single-stream recycling is, it's sorted after the collection. In other words, everything goes into one pile. Well, times have changed. As you can see, the consumer recycling the material into different bags also meant the sanitation collection has to sort the bags into different categories. Most recycling programs in the United States are now single-stream. Between 2005 and 2014, these programs went from covering 29% of American communities to 80%, according to a survey conducted by the American Forest and Paper Association. The popularity makes sense, given that single-stream is convenient, and a full 66% of people surveyed by Harris Poll last October said they wouldn't recycle at all if it wasn't easy to do. Some experts have credited single stream with large increases in the amount of material being recycled. Studies have shown that people choose to put more stuff out on the curb for recycling when they have a single sort system, and the growth of single stream recycling tracks with the growth of recycling overall in this country. But the report on recycling has a dark side. The trucks are constantly compacting, smashing the materials together. The glass breaks and shards get into plastic and the paper. Aluminum cans and plastic bottles that get smashed have the same profiles as paper does. The machine sometimes can't tell the difference between a flattened water bottle and a well-squashed tin can and a piece of paper. 1 out of every 6 bottles and 1 out of 3 cans end up sorted and shipped out wrong. The machines can't ungrind glass shards from the fibers of a cardboard box or pick tiny bits of paper and plastic from piles of half-broken glass. By the time the so-called glass gets to glass processing facility, well, it's really glass mixed with 30 to 50% of other stuff, and it's considered trash. In other words, it's no longer recyclable. And then there's our love affair with Amazon. You know what I mean by that. Everything comes in boxes, and the boxes have a familiar look to it. And the resulting increase in the recycled cardboard boxes contaminated by various tapes, glues, and inks. But it's a big factor. China today is no longer buying, and other countries are considering similar restrictions. Single stream makes it easier and cheaper to collect recycling, and you need fewer staffers to operate fewer trucks, which collect recycling more efficiently and requires less fuel to run the trucks. In some cases, companies pay communities to haul the recycling away instead of the other way around. Part of what made single-stream recycling such a good deal was the Chinese market for contaminated recycling. Without that, more potentially recyclable items are ending up in the trash, and the economic picture has changed. Buyers for all that and what was once sold to China is changing its practice. In 2008, the city of Lake Worth, Florida, signed a contract with Waste Management where the city was paid $10 per ton of single-stream recycling collected. And last year, when the contract was up for renewal, the terms have shifted where the city would have to pay Waste Management $85 a ton to cart it away. The city opted to change a dual-stream system and operate by the county itself. Several other communities have shifted away from single-stream in the past year, and at least partly in response to economic changes brought on by the Chinese regulations. Other communities have increased surveillance of what gets left in single-stream bins and fines for people who violate the rules. We're going to have to make our recycling cleaner. That means either less single-stream recycling or more public education and more stringent use of single-stream systems. Either way, you can expect recycling to get tougher and, well, at least a lot less convenient. There has to be a better way of handling trash. In The Walrus and the Carpenter by Lewis Carroll, the walrus said to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbage and kings. But I fear Marty is to talk of many things, of groundhogs and big games and Chinese New Year, and like Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, has us going down the rabbit hole. Good luck.
Why Groundhog Day? Why not Woodchuck Day or Whistlepig Day or Marmot Day? It's all the same animal and it's chubby, so whatever you call it, it casts a shadow, and it's all about looking for the shadow, right? Shadow in Latin, that's umbra, like umbrellas, but no, we take umbrage at umbra observations made by somebody in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, who's neither with their zoo nor with their weather bureau, but is in fact with their Chamber of Commerce. Originally, it was the Elks Club, and before Punxsutawney picked up the practice, it was performed in Germany with a badger. That's coming up on February 2nd, Groundhog Day. But that's also the day when people will buy more than usual quantities of beer as they prepare for the February 3rd airing of the sports-interjected festival of commercials known as the Super Bowl. Teams of unarmed gladiators meet on a patch of lawn to push each other around, with unthinkably enormous throngs of people keeping an eye on it all, both live and through electronic links. Of course, the globally biggest crowd pleaser of all is February 5th and Chinese New Year, a good time to see the ceremonial dragon dance. The dragon is a symbolic river spirit, bringing good luck and representing wisdom, dignity, fertility, auspiciousness, and great power. All these events are happening during the next week, and all, believe it or not, are relevant to things you may want to think about doing long-term for your home. Let's take them in order. Groundhog Day places a lot of pretend importance on shadows, but some shadows have real worth in the real world. By the time a shade tree is a teenager, it can provide the cooling equivalent of 5,000 BTUs of air conditioning. But don't forget, the groundhog is a burrowing animal, and tree roots can also burrow quite stubbornly right into foundations. So, let your house see the shadows of the tree's top branches, especially in the afternoon, meaning the trees are west of the house. But check with a good landscaper or a nursery pro for advice about root spread that can help position a tree far enough away to dodge damage. You can also find out locally which trees stay healthiest, longest, what they need from you in the way of watering or feeding or care, and so on. That's what we get from groundhogs. Let's think about the Super Bowl. Where would you like to start? There's tailgating, which has become a vivid demonstration, even if no one ever thinks of it that way, that we have ways to back up our entertainment systems, our beverage coolers, our food cookers, and our need to keep warm when it's cold out. It's all in the back of the car or up top. But the energy lessons of Super Bowl Sunday for those watching the game at home are also kind of interesting. Does everybody at your place watch the game on the biggest TV you have? Is there another one on in the kitchen? Is there a fireplace, and is it burning? Consider this, if it's Super Bowl Sunday, it's not summer, it's cold outside. So you have your comfort system heating the indoors. With everybody in one room, that collective body heat will raise the temperature there. And if it happens to be the room where your thermostat is on the wall, that will result in all of the other parts of the house being noticeably less warm than usual. What's happening in the kitchen? Baking pizzas and wings? That can make it another hot spot, or at least hotter spot, and if there's space between the main TV room and the kitchen, you might even catch a draft in the hall. There are no lectures here, just some important observations about how a house that's designed to be at a temperature balance can get thrown off balance by occasional change-ups in human activities. That will prove significant to things we discuss in just a few months. Okay, somebody will win the Super Bowl, and then just 2 days later, it's Chinese New Year, beginning, ironically, a year of the pig. If you have never seen a dragon dance, please find some time to see one on YouTube. A vision, or at least a visual recollection of this long, slender body gracefully bobbing and undulating, almost flowing from point to point to point, is one I may ask you to recall later. As much as the cultural symbolism is significant and worth our respect, the visual experience is one that can really help you get a more complete understanding of how air flows, how water flows, and how temperature flows. So, in the next few days, groundhogs, and the Super Bowl, and a Chinese New Year of the Pig Dragon Dance. Then, in next week's segment, we'll take a look at the sweet and sour juice that may be showing up at your wall plug.
Thank you, Marty. Public service announcements of Computer Club meetings in the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut tri-state region. The computer clubs have random access sessions at each of these club meetings. If you have any questions or need for technical advice, the club members are more than happy to assist. There is no such thing as a dumb question. The Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey is having their main meeting on Friday, February the 1st. Meeting time is 8 p.m., and they meet at the Scotch Plains Rescue Squad at 1916 Bartle Avenue in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. The Kings Bite Computer Club will have their meeting on Tuesday, February the 12th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. at the Park Plaza Restaurant, 220 Cadman Plaza West in Brooklyn, New York. Danbury Area Computer Society will meet on Tuesday, February the 5th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. at the Danbury Hospital in Danbury, Connecticut. By the way, that's when the State of the Union speech is given, so I don't know it's as scheduled. The Westchester PC Users Group will have a presentation on your digital afterlife. Thursday, February the 7th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. at the Keller Williams Realty at 120 Bloomingdale Road in White Plains, New York. The New York Amateur Computer Club will have their meeting on Thursday, February the 14th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. And you know what February 14th is? Valentine's Day. The presentation is Online Dating Services. Meeting will be held at NYU, 32 Waverly Place, Silver Building, room 414, in Manhattan, New York. The Long Island Macintosh Users Group will be meeting on Friday, February the 15th. Meeting time is 7 p.m., and they meet at the Harry J. Scher Hall at the New York Institute of Technology out in Old Westbury campus in Old Westbury, New York. The Princeton PCs Users Group will meet Thursday, February the 26th. Meeting time is 7 p.m., Mercer County Library in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And the Brookdale Computer Users Group will be meeting on Thursday, February the 28th. Meeting time is 6:45 p.m. in the Middletown Library Large Meeting Room, and the meeting is at 55 New Monmouth Road, Middletown, New Jersey. We hope to see you at these meetings. If you have a computer club meeting you want me to announce on the air, send me a note. My address is hank@pcradioshow.org. Our website is pcradioshow.org. We can be heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm on the Internet. Podcasts are available from all the major pod hosting sites, as well as our website, pcradioshow.org. If you have any questions for us or commentary on any of our feature segments, just send us your email address with your telephone number in which we can call you at a convenient hour for playback on the program. And if you have any questions for us, send us an email addressed to hank@pcradioshow.org. And just remember, there is no such thing as a stupid question. In the meantime, stay in touch and keep on computing, and remember to back up before you go to sleep tonight. I'm Hank Key, and on behalf of Joe King and Michael Horowitz, we thank you for listening. Stay safe and healthy until we meet again, same time, same station next week.